Hello everyone. In this brief video, I'd like to go over MLA formatting for essays and other assignments that you'll be submitting to me. So whether you're dealing with a reader response, a paragraph assignment, a take-home essay, or a take-home test, your response would follow this basic format or this set of formatting conventions. First things to note, in terms of format, you should have Times New Roman font, 12 point. Formatting the page, you should have a header along with your last name and the page number. So you want to go into, depending on the word processing software that you're using, you would want to go into something like insert. And when you're inserting something in your header, you would add, insert, you would add the header to your file, and then you would insert a field like page number. And that page number is then going to carry through the rest of the document. So I'll add in my last name here, Van1. That would be replaced by your last name, and the page number carries through the rest of the pages. Other elements of formatting for your responses. You should have your name, my name, the course title, and the date that you've submitted the assignment in the top left-hand corner. You have a centered title. Everything that you submit always has to have a title. The title doesn't have to be remarkably innovative. It could be something as simple as, let's say, Love in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. The title still has to be there, though. Everything in your response should be double spaced. So your response should have spaces between each of these lines. Every paragraph has to be indented. Another thing to note, and it's a tremendous pet peeve of mine, and it's also a requirement for proper MLA formatting. Your text has to be left aligned. So when you go up to this section of your word processing document, you can have the text left aligned, you can have the text centered, you can have the text right aligned, or you can have the text justified. Never justify the text. You always want to have it left aligned so that the edges of your paper are not even. So this is what it should look like on the left-hand margin, or on the right-hand margin, rather. You don't want it justified. You want it left aligned. Your first paragraph should appear with only a single line break between it and the title of your essay. The first line of every paragraph should be indented, and all the text in your essay should be double-spaced. There are no extra spaces between paragraphs, so you don't have this in your essays or any of your other responses. You have that. And your essay should look like this sample. An actual essay will have longer paragraphs. The introduction should be about 150 words, body paragraphs 200 to 300, and conclusion 150. And we'll be going over each of those aspects of an essay as we build our understanding of an essay going forward in this course. But just for any future reader responses and the like, I want you to have this format down. There's no reason for you to lose marks because you, let's say, justified the text. You have this information in your hands, so you might as well save as many marks as you possibly can by formatting the essay correctly. Remember that plagiarism is a serious offense. If ever you take any ideas from any source that is not your own mind, whether it be an online resource, a friend's ideas, conversations with a family member, if you have somebody edit your works, which you really shouldn't because technically that can count as plagiarism as well, you need to cite your sources. We'll go over MLA citation formats in a future video. To cite sources, you need an in-text reference and a works cited entry. For example, in the short story The Spider's Thread, Akutagawa says, here, with the other sinners, at the low point of the lowest hell, Gandhara was endlessly floating up and sinking down again in the pond of blood. Because I've quoted the story, the 39 here after the quotation is the page number of the story from which this quotation is taken. The key takeaway here to keep in mind as we go forward and to continue to discuss plagiarism before your major assignment is that any idea that you find on the internet or in a book about your story must be quoted. So you have to have it in quotation marks, showing me that the language and the ideas are taken from somebody else, and then you need to cite it properly with the page number and the author's name in most cases. Without both, your work could very easily receive a grade of 0 and a report for plagiarism. The last page is something we'll go over in more detail in a dedicated video on the works cited section. But if you need to review works cited with examples and a sample of the structure for a works cited section. You have that here. The last part of this handout and the last part of this video are going to address some key aspects of essays. Just minor little details that can save you 1 or 2 marks in each case, but together it might be a full 10 marks because of minor issues that can be fairly easily corrected. These are things to keep in mind for essays, paragraphs, reader responses, everything. Avoid informal language. So you don't want to use something like, well, some guys believe, right? That's a ridiculous example, but it is germane. It is something that you might see. You might be tempted to use informal language, and you want to avoid that. You cannot use contractions. So you can't say can't. Can't, don't, won't should all be written out fully as cannot, do not, will not, and the like. Remember to integrate your quotations into full sentences. Take a look at this paragraph, the sample, not quite paragraph, but the example that I developed here. For example, in the short story, The Spider Thread, Akutagawa says, notice here that the quotation is not sitting on its own. There isn't a period and then the quotation. I have something signaling that the quotation is here. I have Akutagawa says, or the author writes. I have one of the characters says. I have taken the quotation and fit it into my own sentence in a grammatically correct way. We'll be looking at the different ways we can do that, the different approaches to quotation integration as we go on. But that's something to always keep in mind. Double check your quotations. Make sure they aren't just sitting there on their own as if they can stand on their own like this. Make sure that they're actually integrated into part of your sentence. And lastly, always, always, always use the present tense. Whenever you're describing what's happening in the story, you're setting up for a quotation, you're talking about what's going on in the story, you don't use the past tense. The only time that you use the past tense is when you're describing a moment, right? And then you have to refer back to something that happened earlier on in the story. So I'll give you an example of this. What you'd want to say is that Kandata sees the spider thread as it descends towards him. That is a sentence in the present tense. You wouldn't want to say Kandata saw the spider thread when it descended towards him. So the example of when you might use the past tense is when you're not describing what's going on in this moment. You're still describing the section of the text that you're discussing in the present tense, but you're referring back to something earlier on in the story to put into conversation or to compare it to what's going on now. So Kandata sees the spider thread as it descends towards him. So I'm in the very moment of the story that I'm discussing using the present tense. Now, still in that moment, I refer back to something that happened earlier in the story. Although he felt hopeless when he first arrived in hell, right, now, still using the present tense because I'm talking about this moment in the story, now he believes that he has a chance to escape. 4 simple, small things to keep in mind that can save you up to 10 marks if you actually carry through with all of them.